Good evening and welcome to this special program on acing your exams. For many of you, this is the exam season, and we at PQ are committed to helping students thrive and succeed in their examinations and in life. And that's been our motto. That's been some of the things that we've been doing. I'm sure some of you have attended our programs in the past, so, welcome back for some of you, and if you're attending for the first time, we welcome you as well. So, quickly, can you, if you, we have a few of us joining on YouTube, but most of you are on Zoom. So, if you could just put in the chat which place are you joining from? It just helps us understand where you are coming from. So, just put in the place where you're joining us from, and we'd be happy to know that. Awesome, awesome. Um, yeah, so we've got people from Dehradun, we've got Ahmedabad, we've got Kottayam. What else? Okay, we've got Tiruvalla in Kerala. Any other places? Okay, okay. All right, so yeah, Bangalore, Lucknow. Okay, good. Yes, yes. Some of your names are familiar. All right, all right. So it's good to have you all. Thank you for joining. It'll be a very short session. I hope to take around 40 minutes till around 6:40 Indian time, and then open up for some questions. So that's the idea. And this is part of a larger series of events that we had developed, and this was part of acing your exams. This was a 4-part series, and today we're just looking at the fourth part, which is more on the excelling in the exam hall, just getting prepared for that exam as a whole. So the whole program that we developed was more into helping students understand better, remember longer, focus more intently, and ace and excel their examination. So today we'll look at that fourth part, and if you're interested, you can contact us for recordings. It's a recorded course for the first 3, so you'll get it as a package, and everyone who's registered will get the fourth one, the recording of the fourth one as well. So let's begin, and I just want to start off with addressing something very basic, something when it comes to exams. One thing that is very much out there for students is fear. I remember being a student. It was some time back, and I think fear is a big factor. It's a big part of of examination, and especially if it's a subject that you've not been very historically very been confident about, then that fear is quite high as well. So what is that one subject that you fear the most? Can you just put that in the chat? It would be different. I guess there'll be a lot of mathematics out there. You can, okay, for some of you it's Hindi. Okay, Hindi, maths. Okay, Hindi again. What's wrong with Hindi? Physics. Some of you it's physics, Hindi. Okay, maths. Of course, maths is there, very much on the top of the list. Chemistry. Okay, physics, chemistry, Hindi, math. All right, all right. Accounts. Okay, some of you in the commerce stream as well. So there would be those subjects, right? And fear is a big factor. It leads to a lot of performance issues in exams. Is, and if you look at the core of it, it is fear. In one sense, it is good. The exam stress is good in one sense, because it's an indicator that you're doing something important, right? Imagine you didn't feel anything when there's a board exam of 12th standard coming. You don't feel anything. Oh, it's just another day. Let me see. Let me have some fun. If that's your attitude, if you and you still do well in the exam, that's awesome. But generally, we are stressed and we are anxious about things that really mean something to us, right? And so in that sense, exam stress is good. It's good to feel that pressure in one sense, and many times it helps us perform better as well. But the exam stress becomes bad and becomes really almost like a deterrent, almost like a roadblock, is when it starts affecting your functioning. And it's been proved again and again that heavy stress leads to bad memory, bad working memory. How that works is, when your body feels stressed, it's these stressors, it's these stress causing things. It could be a physical thing, or in this case it's the exam, and the marks, and the stakes, and everything that's involved with the examination. Suddenly your body releases those stress hormones, and your body goes into that fight or flight mode, and your breathing starts to be heavy, the heart beats faster, the hands and feet getting very stiff, the neck gets stiff, the body starts getting warmed up, and everything in your body is now getting ready for some sort of a fight, because it's detected these stressors. But the problem with that is, when your body goes in that really stressed mode, everything else, the normal functioning of your body gets affected. Be it your digestion, be it your basic cell production, be it in this case memory, all those basic things that we normally use every day. Those things get a hit, and everything that is related to fighting, or just facing this difficulty, they get more priority. And that's why, if we have this negative stress, it affects memory. And that's why many students, they get so super stressed. They're really good students, they study hard, they work hard, they get super stressed, and in the exam hall they just forget whatever they study. It just goes blank. The reason is that stress takes over, and memory takes a hit. So the reasons why we really worry, and we get stressed because of exam, is basically these three things. One is the past failure. What is the past failure? It's when you think about whatever happened with you in the past, and it is, let's say you are in class 10 right now, and you've had a very bad experience in a maths exam, let's say in class 5, and you came back home with that paper, and your parents were really upset. They had put you in tuitions, and then you didn't get marks, and they really, probably your father or your mom, shouted at you, and you just have that memory. Or your maths teacher or a chemistry teacher, whoever that is, while giving away this mark sheet, just made fun of you, and said some things that were very painful in front of the whole class. It's probably in class 5, or class 2 or class 3, and then ever since, whenever the max exam comes, all these memories are subconsciously triggered, and that becomes a reminder. Oh, it's max, I'm going to fail again. Oh, I'm going to make a fool of myself again. My parents are going to be upset again. That past failures keeps on, getting reminded. And then the fear of the unknown. What's going to happen? What are going to be the marks? What are going to be the exam questions? I mean, that's something that board students face a lot. Just thinking too much about whether it'll be a hard paper or an easy paper. It'll be evaluation will be strict or lenient. What are the kind of questions will come? It'll be more problems or more theory. That anticipation of the unknown. You keep thinking about it, and you get stressed. And then you think about the stakes as in, let's say you're preparing for an entrance exam, and you're doing a repeat year, you're repeating a year for medical entrance exam, and so the stakes are really high. You're going to think, oh, I've spent 1 year, my friends are all now in college, I'm spending 1 extra year in doing this thing, my parents have spent a lot of money, what if I don't get this? If I don't get this, then I won't get into a good college. If I don't get into a good college, I won't be able to do my masters. If I don't be able to do my masters, I won't be able to get a job, and then blah blah blah. You think 25 years into into the future, and you get stressed, right? So usually it's these three things. Can you just put in the chat 1, 2, or 3? Which is your kind of worry? Is it the past failures that really bug you and make you kind of really anxious and upset? Is it the fear of the unknown, just thinking too much about what kind of questions will come and all of that? Or is it the stakes, thinking of how important this is, I can't mess up? Is it 1, 2, or 3? How is your style of stress? You can just put it in the chat, okay? So a lot of you voting for number 2, fear of the unknown. Yeah, just thinking about the questions. What are the kind of questions will be there? One of you saying it's all there. Bro, it's all 3. All 3 of them. Some of you saying fear of the unknown. So I think a lot of you saying fear of the unknown. Number 2 and 3 is the stakes, and then there's a lot of these parental pressure. I think that comes in stakes, as in, I make me proud, don't make me lose my respect in front of my friends, those kind of pressure from the parents and comparison. Your sister was really good at this, what's wrong with you, all those pressures from there. And I'm sure if you've been a younger sibling and your older sibling was like a really good student, you will have to hear this all your life. And God forbid, both of you are in the same school, you'll hear this all the time. Your sister was an excellent student, your brother was an excellent student, what's wrong with you? And that just adds to the pressure. Oh my goodness. Some of you are saying that that's me, that's my sister. All right, yeah. So I mean, all of this is so true, right? And this is the reality. So what I want you to just think about, and before we get into some of the exam tips, I want to think about 5 things you can actually do, practically do, to calm your fears, to at least approach the exam with a pleasant, calm mind. Whether you've studied or not, whether you're 100% confident or not, that's a different thing. You got to work hard. So doing these techniques is not going to help you get more marks just like that. It just helps you attempt the exam better. Okay. So 5 things, and you got to tell me which is your top pick. All right. So here we go. Number one, a thing that I would like to say when it comes to calming your fears. Number 1 is to write down your fears. Write down your fears. I'll tell you how this helps. All of us have a PhD in overthinking. We don't need to really go to school for that. We are good at overthinking. We just think too much, and especially it's negative thoughts. Especially when it's some of these exams that you're stressed about. Just think too much, and our thinking rate is just too rapid. We can think so many things at the same time. We can just keep thinking and thinking and thinking, and one thing leads to the next, and things so let's say you're sitting in front of the textbook, you're preparing for the exam, and you are thinking of how you're going to mess this up, and how your parents are going to be super upset, how you're going to be humiliated in the class, how your friends are going to make fun of you. That's what you're thinking right in front of the book at the time when you should study. So if you are somebody like that who overthinks a lot, and especially negative things, I would really encourage you to take a piece of paper and a pen and write it down. Write down your fears. So how that helps is, writing is much slower than thinking. I mean, that's basic logic. So if you think, let's say, 200 thoughts a minute, you can probably write 2 thoughts a minute. You can't write more than that. So what that will do is, if you are really super, overthinking, just write it down. I think that I'm going to really mess up this exam. I have not studied chapter 5 and 6. I think most of the questions will come from chapter 5 and 6. And I think I'm going to miss that. I don't know what I'm going to do. I think my parents are going to be super. You'll write that down. So what that will do is, it will help you, 1, slow down. Number 2, have something in front of you to kind of see what is happening. And then number 3, you can actually probably read it 10 minutes later, 15 minutes later, an hour later, or sometime later, and then actually rationalize it. Hey, is it really true? I thought about all this. This is what I think. This is what my mind says. This is all written down here on this paper. But is this true? Is it making any sense? 10 minutes later or an hour later, you go take a shower and come back, you read that. Half of that won't make sense. It'll be like, yeah, it's true. It could be, but I think there's a way out. You'll be able to look at it more rationally. 1, you'll slow down. Number 2, it becomes a record. Number 3, it helps you rationalize and get over it. Otherwise, this overthinking just takes so much time, and it just infuses so much of pressure and negativity unnecessarily, irrationally. Some of them makes no sense at all, but we end up doing anyway. So number 1, write down your fears. Number 2, analyze past failures. This is such a crucial aspect in overcoming fears. So what I mean by this is, let's say you are a math student, you're a chemistry student, a physics student, and you're struggling in that subject, or a Hindi student. Some of you said, I struggle in Hindi. Just look at the past answer papers. I'm sure you'll have a collection of that. Many times we are proud of the answer papers that have, let's say, 95 out of 100 or 45 out of 50, those kind of high scores. But those are just, okay, that's nice. It's once you look at, I got a 95, that's great, it's fine. But what you really need to treasure is those papers that you didn't score, because that gives you a glimpse of where you could possibly go wrong. And so your papers, let's say you got 20 out of 100, that's a great piece of evidence for you to analyze and say that, hey, I went wrong here, 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 and here. I better make sure this never happens again. So what that does is, when you look at your past answer papers or even question papers, if you don't have answer papers, you know how you went wrong. You can be pretty sure that these are the mistakes I will not make again, because now you have analyzed it well. Oh, I went wrong here. I drew the wrong diagram. From this step, when I copied the number 7349, on the other page it became 7439, and then the rest of the calculation went. So that was a big blunder there. I better not make it again when I'm copying from one page to the other. So you'll get so many evidences throughout your answer paper of past failures that gives you enough things to do in the future and not make them again. It gives you confidence. So you don't have to fear the past and whatever happens. Whatever happened in the past happened. You can't change that score from the past. There's nothing you can do about it. But what you can do is analyze the mistakes and never make them again. Right? So that's number 2 of calming your fears. Analyze intentionally. Look back into the model exam or previous exams, so that year's whatever answer papers you have. Look at areas you went wrong and learn from them. Number 3 is to practice in test conditions. This is very much crucial for board exam students and entrance exam students. So many times what happens is, when we go into the exam hall, especially for 10 students, this is your first board exam. 12 students, this is your more serious board exam. Entrance exam, this is your first competitive exam. So for many of you, it's a first. And you go into that exam hall, and that pressure of that external invigilator and the question paper coming in, all of that, those are things you've never experienced before. It's a new phenomenon. And what that happens, and what happens there is, because you've not experienced it, there's a lot of pressure, unnecessary pressure, and you start fumbling and sweating and making silly mistakes and bubbling in the wrong places or writing slowly, and you start getting nervous and all that. So what you can do is, when you are preparing in your study leave, have times where you practice with the test condition. That means where you don't have access to phones and internet, and you can just walk up whenever you feel bored. No, nothing like that. So if you're practicing a part of the question paper, it usually takes, let's say, 45 minutes. That 45 minutes, you're not getting up from there. There is nothing to consult except the answer paper and the question paper. You just do the you do the practice question paper. That's it. There's no access to food. There's no access to the TV or the phone or anything. That's like a test condition. You can just take the help of your siblings or your parents for that. It just helps you mentally prepare for something like that. So probably on your dining table, where like this, it's all blank, and then you can just have your question paper and that, and just practice and keep a timer. Try to finish it in that time. So either the full question paper or parts of the question paper, but on test conditions in that environment. So where you feel that, okay, there is a crunch of time, and how do I work in that? How much time do I take? It just helps you prepare better. That's number 3. Number 4 is, look at what is in my control. Ask that. Many times we worry about things that are not in our control. Like what I said before, what are the type of questions that will come? Will it be more problems or will it be more theory? Will it be from the second half of the syllabus or the first half of the syllabus? Will it be an easy paper? Will it be a tough paper? Will it be new questions? Will it be repeated questions? We just don't know. These are things beyond our control. And most of the times we worry about those things, or maybe 100% of the time. We worry about things that are not in your control. We don't worry about things that are in our control. How much time do I spend on social media while I should be studying? When do I wake up? Do I eat well? Do I sleep well? Do I have the right materials? We often don't worry about these things. We worry about things that are not in our control. So asking yourself, what are the things in my control? What is not in your control? There's no point worrying about it. There's nothing going to change about that. But things that are in your control, the time that you have, the resources that you use, the timetable that you set, and all of those things are in your control. How you use your time, how you are focused, what can you do about it? All of those things. When do you go to sleep? When do you wake up? All of these are things in your control, and you can work on them. So ask that and worry about things that are in your control. That makes a lot of difference. And number 5, the last one, is to talk to someone who cares. A lot of students do not talk about this. They talk to other students who are equally or more stressed than yourself. So you ask somebody, buddy, bro, have you studied, man? No, bro, I've not studied. Oh, okay, you have not studied? I've also not studied. Very nice, very nice. It doesn't solve the problem, right? And then, or let's say, and the other guy says, yeah, man, this is my fifth revision going on. That's it, gone. You're like, you lose your peace because the other person is far ahead than you. So talk to someone who cares, and preferably somebody older, somebody who's gone through this, somebody who understands this, a parent or some mentor or somebody from your community, someone or your teacher, somebody that you know, or your senior, a cousin, somebody who is older than you, who's gone through this. Just helps in talking, is letting it out. Like writing it out, it helps in talking it out, because the other person might give you perspectives that you never thought of, and helps you rationalize some of those fears. So quickly, the number one is to write things down, helps you slow down your thinking and helps you rationalize it. Number two, analyze past mistakes. Your mistakes are your friends as long as you analyze them and not repeat them. Mistakes are good to learn from. Number three, practice in test condition gets you prepared for more serious situations. Number four is to ask repeatedly, is this in my control? If it's not, why am I worrying about it? Just forget it. Look at things that are in my control. And number five, talk to someone who cares. So in the chats, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, which is your top pick? Can you just yeah, so I can see some of the comments coming in the chat. Awesome. Wonderful. Awesome. Number four, or if you're saying number four, is to think about things that are not in your control. Why worry about things that are not? Yes. We will. It will be on YouTube. Yeah, it will be on our channel. Yeah, it will be there. Number three is to practice in test conditions. Okay, so most of you saying number 4 and 5. Talk about it. Definitely, yes. It just helps. It helps in talking. Yes. Lovely. All right. So keep thinking about how, if you are somebody who's really super stressed during exam time, what can you practically do about it? Awesome. So let's look at 3 things. I've divided the rest of the time into these 3 segments. Getting organized. We'll just talk briefly about being exam fit. Many times we ignore that aspect, but we'll just briefly talk about that. And then finally, the best part of today is 7 exam day tips. And I wish I knew this when I was in school. I knew a little bit about this when I was in college. But the more I've worked with students and researched and just read a lot of materials on this, that's when I came to know about some of them. So hang on till the end, and I'm sure that you will take away a lot of things. So number 1, getting organized. So a lot of students make a mistake of organizing things towards the end, as in let's say there's a study leave. That's when they understand, okay, it's chapter 5 of chemistry, I was absent, or I didn't take down the notes, so let me ask somebody for the notes. And that's like 2 weeks before the exam. Or then they go for photocopying this or downloading this or that presentation or that, or this one, the notebook is not complete, then you ask for notes. And all of that organization happens during the last moment. So number 1 in your checklist should be, before you get into that serious study mode. So I think many of you, it's already there, right? Exam modes are there. So even for this exam or the upcoming exams, just keep this in mind to have your study materials, your notes and everything ready before the actual exam season. And how that helps is, let's say you have a study desk, and of course you have your textbooks and your notebooks, but maybe taking a day or two, a weekend, maybe let's say a month before your main exams, or 2 months before that, however you want to study, and just making sure you have all the chapters, notes and everything ready for all chapters. Everything is ready. If you need to do photocopies, do that. Downloading, do that. Calling somebody, do that. Going to your friend's house to write down your notes, do that. Emailing, Google Drive, whatever. PowerPoint presentations, or second textbook, or guide, or question bank, whatever you need, get it ready at least a month before. And you can make probably piles of that, like, like this is chemistry, this is physics, this is math, this is history, whatever that is. You can have neatly stacked books and resources for each thing. So get those things ready in advance and don't wait for the last moment to get them organized. Number two is to have your revision tools and a clear timeline for things. We talk about this in our second and third segment of the whole series. This, as I told you, this is part 4 of that whole series of acing your exams, and those things. If you're interested, you can check out. So we talk a lot about creating your own revision tools and techniques, and we talk about active recall, spaced repetition, and exam scheduling, and all of that. More to do with the forgetting curve and why we forget things and how can we overcome that and all of that. So basically the idea is whatever revision techniques that, whether it's flashcards or whether it is mind maps, where anything that you have created. So the first segment is all the notes and the presentations and the textbooks and guides and whatever that you can acquire, and this one is the study tools that you have created. And as I said, we talk about how to create your own study tools in our course. And if you have prepared something like that, get that ready as well. So and a good timeline of how you're going to process the next 15, 20, 30, 45, 60 days, however long that you plan to prepare. So having that approach is really good, and keeping that in mind. So and I know that most of us, we have this wrong idea that I will study better if it's closer to the exam day. So let's say physics is on 21st of March. I will study the best if between, let's say, 17 to 21st. So we study put a time to, this is a hard exam, so I'll have these many days before that. This is an easy exam, so I'll put 2 days. And I think that's something that we've been so used to, keep everything towards the end. And that leads to a lot of pressure. That leads to a lot of unnecessary stress and all of that. So having it at least a month or 2 in advance, and then slowly easing out and pacing it out. We talk about that in our course. So you can think about creating a timeline and creating your own revision tools for that. And number 3 is getting the stationery ready. And I know it sounds silly, but during the exam season, I think it's so good to know that you are in absolute control of all the things that you need for the exam. So be it pens, be it highlighters, or anything that you need it for the exam, be drawing tools or compasses and whatever mathematical tools that you need. I mean, having all of that ready, and that gives you a sense of, oh, I'm ready for this. Bring it on. I'm ready for this. That kind of an attitude, rather than finding the day before the exam starts. Oh, my compass is broken. I need to get it. Okay, let's go buy it, and that just spoils the whole rhythm of things. And so whatever you need for the exam, have it ready, and gives you that sense of confidence that yes, I'm ready for what's in stake. So 3 things, 3 checklists. Number 1, your own materials and notes, whatever you need for that. Number 2, whatever revision tools that you make and a good timeline that you create. And number 3, this is something for yourself, stationery and snacks or whatever is your comfort food during that time. It just helps you be in that zone, in that mood for good, enjoyable studies. A quick note also on staying exam fit. The reason is I struggled with this when I was a student, to eat and sleep properly when the exam season is on. Anyone else struggles with that? Eating and sleeping during exam suddenly becomes a problem. Yes or no? You just put in the chat. Yes, I can see some tick marks. Yes. Sleeping. Okay, maybe one of it. I used to have struggled with both sleeping and eating. Till the exam, no problem with sleeping, no problem with eating. But sleep at 1, wake up at 6. You do that for 15 days, it's gonna mess up the whole system, right? Yeah, I couldn't sleep. So even when I sleep, every 15 minutes I just wake up, or 20 minutes I wake up, and then I lose. Then I'll try hard to sleep. I look, oh, it's just 1 o'clock. I'll be sleep again, and then again wake up at 1:30. That very that because it's because of tension. There's so much of anxiety. You can't sleep. It affects your entire body rhythm. You can't eat because, as I said, once you get in that stress mode, your digestion, your normal functioning, all of those things get affected. Your memory get affected. So when you are in that high stress mode, unnecessary stress mode, you can't eat anything, and even if you eat, it doesn't digest. It's just so much of trouble there. So know these things, that the brain needs food for functioning, because it's in a highly overworked mode, and so some basic things really help. If you are well prepared enough, as I said, if you have started to think 30 to 45 days before the exam, you can easily plan out things and eat well, sleep well, exercise well, and stay refreshed. Because things are in your control. You know that there's 45 days. You know that you are pacing it. You know that these are things in your control. But if you put everything closer to the exam day, and that's what most of us do, you're eating, sleeping, exercising, everything just goes out of rhythm, and it just adds to the pressure, adds to the body's tensed mode, and just keeps on cycling. The problem is not in 10th standard. The problem is not at 15 years old. The problem is making this a habit throughout your academic life, because the exams that you're going to face in the future are going to be much more difficult and much more important than a class 10 exam. Of course, class 10 is important, but think about, let's say you're taking engineering. You're going to have 5 papers of mathematics in 5 semesters. You're going to have more complex systems and interviews, and you're going to have a lot more things coming up. So if you are in that habit of being so super stressed because you put everything towards the last moment, and you make this a habit into the future, it's gonna take a toll throughout. So think about these things, and the more you prepare, the better you sleep, the better you can eat and exercise as well. So take these breaks whenever possible, and that's why I put that aspect of stationery and snacks. So whatever, probably it could be whatever that you like. Whenever you take breaks, you can have short bites of that as well. All right, so let's get to the main part, and I would like to spend around 10 to 15 minutes on this. These are going to be really useful. As I said, I wish I knew this when I was a student. So how's it going? Can you put in the chat? How's it going so far? We've crossed 30 minutes. And I'll take your questions right after that. Yeah, is it useful? Are you learning something new? Can you put in the chat? Is it something that is beneficial? What if you're asking how long of a break? So I really promote something called the Pomodoro technique, which is 25 plus 5 or 20 plus 5, however you look at it. So if you have a 2-hour study block, rather than sitting for 2 hours and then wasting half of the time, think of splitting that into segments of 30 minutes each, and each 30 minutes as 25 and 5. So 25 minutes of intense focus, no phones, no distractions, absolutely nothing. And there's a timer or a clock that you kind of look at to make sure that you're looking at the time. After 25 minutes sharp, you stop wherever you are, just take a break, intentional break, and just go do whatever you want. I mean, it could be listening to a song on Spotify, texting a friend, it could be a YouTube video, it could be going to the kitchen, it could be taking like 3 push-ups, it could be eating your snack, it could be petting your dog, it could be watering the plants, whatever. It could be doing a skipping rope, whatever. 5 minutes of earned rest. You've earned that rest time, that relaxed time, because of 25 minutes of focus. And then back to 25 and 5, 25 and 5. So a block of 4 of 30 minutes, 25 plus 5 really helps. So that's something that I would recommend. So one of you saying I have 2 months for my exam, and I've got a lot of time. Awesome. So let's get to the final segment of this, exam day tips. These are practical things you can do on the exam day. We're talking about while you are in the exam hall. So this is very useful if you are preparing for your board exams or your entrance exams or any sort of exams in general. But think of yourself in that exam hall. Some of you are going to write your first board exam now, but just imagine, just think. You are in exam hall, this exam means a lot to you, you got to perform well, you're right there. These are 7 tips that really help you. Number 1, know that the examination is primarily in your mind. It's in your mind. The battle is in your mind. And it's so important to win that battle first, right? So a lot of students who have been excellent students throughout have struggled to write exams properly. The reason is their mind is completely cluttered. The mind is always, buzzing. There's so much of negativity, as I said. There's so much of fear and this overthinking. And especially during those last 10 to 15 minutes just before you enter the exam hall, it's best to avoid. These are my recommendations. Best to avoid conversations. Best to avoid. Tumne ye padha kya? Did you learn this? Did you learn that? Oh, did you revise that? All those questions are meaningless 15 minutes before the exam. There's no point asking 15 people, did you study that? Did you study this? What will you know? If his answer is yes or no, how does it make a difference? And the only issue is if he studied something that you didn't study, it's only going to make you more tense 5-10 minutes before the exam. So what I would recommend is stop all the frantic last minute study. We're so used to that. At least 10 to 15 minutes before the exam. And if you have a 1-page summary note of that you've made, and we call that as a cheat sheet. I talk about that in the course. It's a cheat sheet. Don't take the cheat sheet into the exam hall, but it's for you. It's like a 1-page summary of a chapter or a portion or whatever. You can just refer that rather than just learning something new. It won't stick. So probably 10-15 minutes or 30 minutes before you enter there, you can just do that. And towards the last 10 minutes, I would totally recommend not doing anything. Just relax, just enjoy the that feeling that yes, I've worked hard, I've prepared well, I've been honest, this is, let's say if you're 10th standard, this is I've worked 15 years for this. I've reached this far. If you're in 12th standard, this is my last exam of my school life. If you're in college, whatever that is, just enjoy that time, just relax, and you've worked hard, and go in that confidence. It makes such a big difference, rather than just running around and asking friends and then trying to by heart something new that you have never learned before, and then I forgot, I missed this. Okay, then you go for that. You get so stressed, super stressed. Relax. The battle is in the mind. Watch your mind. What are you thinking right now? Is it positive things? Is it that yes, I've worked hard and I'll gonna do my best? Or are you like, this is gone, this is gonna be like the last exam, or this is I'm gonna really be bad at this. That kind of, if that's where you start your exam, it's gonna end pretty bad. So number 1 is watch your mind, relax before you enter. Number 2 is to make a game plan. And how that helps is let's say you have a 3-hour paper or a 2-hour paper, and you have 25 questions or 30 questions, 40 questions, 50 questions, whatever that is. And you have, like, let's say 4 or 5 sections. And let's say your exam starts at 10, ends at 1, 10 to 1. So you've got 3 hours, 180 minutes, and these are the markings. The first section has 10 marks, second section is 20 marks, third section is 20 marks, fourth has 20, whatever that is. So what each section is valued, and almost what time you need for each, because towards the end there is this essay kind of question that need more time. So make a game plan before you start writing the first answer, maybe on the question paper or at the back of the answer paper, wherever you get some space. Make a plan. So 10 to 10:20, I'm going to attempt this section. At 10:20, I'm going to start this section till 10:50. 10:50 to 11:30, I'm going to be on this. 11:30 to 12:15, I'm going to be on this. 12:15, 12:45, I'm going to finish the last segment. However you decide that. Keep at least 15 minutes at the end where you can go back and revise. So it's like a buffer time. So that also gives you some time to read the question paper. Okay, so number 1 that you do is to create a plan. This is how I'm going to approach this. Number 2, as you read, you will find certain questions that you have no clue about. Probably you missed it, probably you don't remember it, probably it's out of syllabus, probably it's an application you never thought about, probably there are some things. And you'll also find questions that you're really familiar with. Okay, so these are the two categories you will find, and again, it just helps you see the layout of the question. And why I suggest that is because if you don't read the whole question paper, let's say you start with the first section, it's usually the multiple choice questions, pretty easy, and then you come slowly towards the mid part and you find this one question that just stumps you, you're baffled, and then and what happens is, because you didn't read it before, you read that question there and you just freeze, and then you think, and so you put your pen down, and you're putting your hands on your head and you're thinking about it, and then what happens is the entire flow is gone, and till then you were kind of okay, but this kind of stumps you, and this makes you think, and you start worrying. Oh, this is bad. Oh, I wish I'd studied this. I wish. Oh, my friend had told about it. Oh, madam has told about this. Oh, I read that in the this on this paper. Oh, I can't remember. Then it goes on that mode. But if you read the question paper before you start, you know that there are sections you know, sections you don't know, and so you won't be surprised and you won't lose that flow. Oh, this is a question that I don't know. Okay, that's fine. I'll come back to this. I'll try the next one. So there is that flow that keeps on going, and that is flow is so important while writing an exam. So make a game plan, decide the time, and also see the outline of the paper, so that you know that which are your comfort zones, which need a little more push, which are totally blank zone, and you are not surprised. Number three is to think like an examiner. I would say I wish I was told this more seriously throughout my academic life. Think like an examiner. You know, each exam, let's say you're writing a board exam, and the one who's correcting your papers is probably correcting 100 other students every day. And they have like 7 days and all that. They have to keep correcting papers. And they read the same answer 100 times a day. And I'm sure that's not an exciting task to do. Definitely not. It's not something they really, oh, wow, let me read it again the 100th time. No, I don't think any examiner is going through that. They are looking for absolute answers. There is a question, it has 2 marks or 3 marks. It's a very specific question, asked about something. They are looking for the actual answer. And so if you write the answer in a way that they are not expecting, don't expect them to be kind to you. And that's why a lot of students lose their marks. So as you read the question, you look at the marks, if it's written explain, that means you got to really put it in your own words and give an example if possible. If it means define, that means you've got to give the definition of it and not use your own words. If it means differentiate, it means you've got to say about this and say about that. If it's 2 marks, probably 2 differences or 4 differences. If it is give your reason, give an application, that means you don't have to write the definition, you have to write how it is applied. So whatever is the question, describe, it means probably you have to give 3 or 4 different ways of looking at that. Describe photosynthesis would be different from define photosynthesis, or explain how photosynthesis is the essential part of a plant would be totally different question than saying that what are the components in photosynthesis. You get the point. As you read the question, you should be able to see what is the examiner looking for. And that helps you understand. You don't have to draw a diagram for everything. You don't have to write big essay kind of questions for 2 marks. You don't have to do that. But for certain questions, you do have to draw a diagram. You do have to make a table. It depends on the question. Think like an examiner. It just helps you in being really sharp. And when the examiner corrects your paper, especially for a board exam, they exactly know where to give you the marks. And that just, it's to the point, precise, and it makes their life easier and your report card look much better. Number 4 is to use shorter sentences. This is again thinking from an examiner's perspective. If it's a descriptive question, essay kind of question, rather than going big sentences with and but and therefore and just connectors and all of that and going long sentences, use short sentences. It just, with short sentence, full stop, 1 sentence, full stop, 1 sentence, full, just helps them see the idea. And especially if it's, unless it's an English essay where you are expected to use big sentences, that's fine. But if you're explaining something, use short sentence. It helps the examiner read better, comprehend better, and understand what you're trying to say. Number 5 is to make outlines for essays. This is super easy and super effective. I wish, again, this is something I've missed all my academic life. So What do I mean by this? Let's say you have an essay kind of question. Let's say you're doing history or geography, or you have to write probably 1 or 2 page answer. You've got to probably describe something in detail, or differentiate between two things and give a big explanation. So before you start writing, maybe at the back of the question paper or the back of the answer paper, wherever you find some space, just note down how would you approach this. So let's say it's 10 marks or 12 marks, and you've got to write 2 pages, and you've got 5 points. So, or 3 points. What you could do is think of an introduction. Think of number one is what is going to be your introduction. Okay. Number two, what is point one, what is point two, what is point three, and what will be your conclusion? So you've got 5 points there. Or if you've got 5 points, what is your introduction, what is your conclusion, and your 5 points. That's 7 points in total. So make a small circle, write the question there. So let's say, I don't know, the various kingdoms in India, or the second roundtable conference, history, or whatever. It's usually a long answer. So what are the points? Just draw a small circle and sub points, just right there. And this is the introduction. These are 3 points. This is the conclusion. And it probably takes 30 seconds, maybe 45 seconds, 1 minute to do that. And then you start your answer, writing your answer. So what happens is as you start writing, there's a roadmap. And okay, this, I'm going to write about this. Okay, next, I'm going to write that. Okay, third one, I'm going to write this. Fourth one, I'm going to write this. You have an idea. If you don't do that, what happens is, if it's not something that you really are confident about, you start off with something, you write the first point, and then you start thinking. You start thinking, okay, what do I write after this? Okay, I already wrote that, so whatever. Then the thinking happens as you are writing. And because of that, you're not able to structure it. Probably the second point should have gone first, and the first point should have gone second. Because you've already written, now you can do anything, so you have to work around that. But if you make an outline first, you can, okay, this doesn't look good. Okay, I'll start with this, go to this, and then come back to this, and then conclude with this. So you can do a little bit of thinking and planning before you start writing. Right? So making outlines for essays is very convenient and helps you, helps you think clearly and saves you time as well. Number 6. Take time to cross-check. So this is good section by section. As I said, if you've got 5 sections and let's say you need 15 minutes for section 1, just put a 3-minute gap after that to check whatever's happened here. Then let's say you need 20 minutes for this, put a 2-minute gap after that to check this. Let's say you need 30 minutes for this, put again 2 minutes gaps just to check whatever the different question number, is it correct, have I made any calculation mistakes, is there anything that I missed, just to cross check. And you can either do it at the end, but by the time it ends, it's just too late, and then you've got to go back all the way back to the first, and then you miss out things. So I would say, when you make the game plan, put some time for checking as well. So 15 minutes for writing, 2 minutes for checking, that's like 17 minutes, and similarly like that. And so it just helps you in making sure that whatever you've written is valid, and everything is in the right place. So just put time for cross-checking, just writing till the last moment, till the teacher pulls the paper and all. I mean, that's how you've done it. But I think that's because of lack of planning and overwriting. Just writing too much to impress the examiner. And as I said, the examiner is not sitting there to read your stories. They're looking for the exact place to put their marks in. And if you have that, they give you. If you don't have, they just skip. That's it. That's how things work. So think like an examiner is pretty important. Number seven is do not panic. Do not panic. I mean, it's very obvious, but let me give you perspective. So as you go through the question paper, you find certain questions that you have no clue about. You didn't study, or you missed it, or it's out of syllabus, or bounce, or whatever that is. You look at that, there are 2 ways in which you can respond. Again, the first thing that we talked about, what is in your control? Is this question in your control? You didn't look at it, you missed it, you skipped it, or you forgot it, whatever it is now not in your control. You can't do anything about it. Probably at the end, you can try thinking a little harder, but maybe not. It might not work. So what is in your control is the other 70% of the exam paper that you have an idea about. What is more logical? To spend time, energy, efforts, focus on those, or keep worrying about the things that you have no control about. So keep this in mind. It's a very important life principle. What do you have control over? If you don't have control over something, why worry about it? There's no point worrying. You can just waste another set of time and emotions and energy just worrying about things you have no control. So do not panic at any point, because it's logical not to panic. If you panic, even what you know, you can't write that. even what you're good at, those questions will be washed away as well. And that's why I said going through the question paper helps, because you won't be surprised. Otherwise, you'll come to a place and you'll have regrets and sadness and all of that, and then you'll miss out whatever is left after that as well. So these are my 7. Let me just run through it. Number 1, watch your mind. What are you thinking going into it? So have a peace of mind at least 15 minutes before it. Pause everything, stop everything, just relax, just breathe, just think of good stuff, pray. I mean, if you want to sing a song in your mind, do that. Just go positively and just enjoy the moment. This is the time to prove, yeah, that you've worked hard, and let's bring it on. Let's do it. And that's the attitude in which we go, rather than just being stressed out. Number 2 is to make a game plan, time wise, approach wise. If you're allowed to change the order of the questions as you write, you can do that. Just write all the questions that you know and then leave all the questions you don't know towards the end, if you're allowed to do that. Otherwise, at least follow patterns where you can you can see which are the familiar questions, which are not. Just make a game plan. Timing is really important. Just mark the timing on the question paper before you start. At least take 2 minutes for that. Number 3, think like an examiner. Don't write stories, don't write to impress, don't just draw flowers and use 100 color pencils and all. I don't think anyone is really impressed by that unless you have enough things to answer the question. Think like an examiner. What are they looking for? What does this question demand? Think through that. Number 4 is to make shorter sentences. Helps people read better and helps you communicate your point across. Number 5, outline for essays. Make it before you start it so that you can have a reference and there's a flow of thought as well. Number 6, take time to cross-check after each section preferably, or at least at the end. And number 7, no matter what happens, please do not panic. So before I conclude, which of these 7 made sense to you? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Just put in the chat. Which of these made sense to you? Some of you saying my exam is day after tomorrow. Okay, so probably yes, this is good for you for your exam. But maybe from your next exams you can be a little more prepared. Yeah, thank you for mentioning that. Which of these made more sense to you? Think like an examiner. All right, think like, of course we gotta. What about the others? You could just put in the chat. That'd be awesome. Okay, 3, 5, and 7. Okay, outline for essay. Okay. 3 was yes, think like an examiner, outlines, and do not panic. Watch your mind. How do you go into it? Yeah. Awesome. So as we close, make a short story. Make a story. Okay. Just connect things and yeah. Don't make a story. Make a story. When did I say that? All right. Good. Awesome. So as we close, just do your best. This is not the end of your life. This is not an evaluation of your self-worth. You are much more than what your report card says. There are hundreds and thousands of people who have made it big in life and were big losers in their academics, and still they've made it in life. So academics is necessary. Definitely scores help, marks helps, and being studious, being like really passionate about studying, that all that helps. But just be yourself. See exams as learning opportunities, not a day of judgment. No, this is not a D day. This is nothing. This is just another opportunity to prove yourself, to check yourself, to evaluate yourself, to see how much you have prepared. And it's a good learning opportunity. As I said, answer papers with 100 out of 100 are, I would say, less worth than answer papers with 20 out of 100 if you can learn from those mistakes. So everything is a learning opportunity where you can learn how to excel, how to keep moving forward. So I come here not as an expert in education, but somebody who's made blunders and somebody who's made hundreds of mistakes in the past. And based on those mistakes, I'm able to share these learnings with you, and just wishing you all the very best, not just for this coming exams, but for all your future endeavors. And I hope that these learnings really help you. I hope that you've learned something new today. We've got a few minutes for questions and answers. If you have any question, please put it in the chat. Otherwise, thank you so much for joining. I hope this encourages you to study well. Thank you. Any questions? I'm happy to stay back. Just put it in the chat. I'll take your questions. um, yes. What's the app for mind map? So I recommend something called Coggle, COGGLE .it. Coggle.it. It's something that you can try. Coggle.it. D-Day, I think it's a short form for Doomsday. Something like what's happening in Ukraine, things like that. Something like a war, something like judgment, those kind of things. So a lot of people say it's D-Day, it's Doomsday, something like that. I'm gonna score 100. Definitely, why not? Go for it. Go for it. Preparing for exams effectively, I think it's as I said, it's a combination of a lot of things. It's not just these tips that I mentioned. This is of course during the exam season, but there's a lot of run up to that, right? So how I look at it is three ways. Number one is to understand. There's no point trying to mug up things, memorize things if you don't understand a concept. So number one is understand. There's a lot of techniques for that. Number two is remember. So there's a lot of memory techniques, and we talk about something called active recall, space repetition, flashcards and all of that. So that's definitely, it's a much longer session, but that's number two. Looking for active ways to test yourself rather than just reading notes. So the more you test yourself, the more you remember. So understand something and then test yourself regularly. That's number two, memory. And number three is to have a habit of focus. Because if you can't focus, if majority of your waking hours, your best hours is on your phone, on Reddit and Discord and this game and that game and Instagram reels, and then in the exam you want to do effectively in the exam, that's not going to happen. So number three is focus. You got to have those times. Of course, we need to have time for fun and entertainment. That's fine. That's totally fine. But if your best hours is every day being wasted for things that are not at all useful, that'll be very difficult for you to focus. Just completely lose interest. I've spoken to a lot of students who've completely lost interest in studies in the last 2 years. Unfortunately, because of the pandemic, because of the overdose of screen addiction and all of that. So these three things really matter: understand, remember, and focus. And number four is what I mentioned here. It's the excelling in exam part. Yeah, and revision game apps. Yeah, you can think of. Is writing and learning more efficient than learning and just writing exam? Yeah, I think that's up to you. We all have different ways of approaches. So some of us are visual learners. We like to look at things and understand. Some of us are oral, auditory learners. We like to speak it out and explain it. Some of us like to see it in action, kinesthetic. Like to tactile, like to touch it, and those kind of learning. So it depends on what kind of learner you are. How do you process things? So, but these three things remain: understand, remember, focus. So however that you are able to do that, understand, remember, focus. Revision game apps, you can think of something called Bamboozle, BAMBOOZLE, bamboozle.com. It's basically a teacher's app, but you can use it for making games for your friends, and you can do revisions. Can you repeat point number 4? Yes, let me see what was point number 4. Yeah, shorter sentences. What I mean there is, especially in a exam context, board exam context, if you're writing essay questions, essay answers, it's good to have short sentences so that your point is, whatever you're trying to say is communicated better. So especially if you're not very confident as a writer, and if you use long sentences with and but and therefore and since, and you keep writing big sentences and then putting a full stop at the end, two things happen. One, either you'll make a lot of mistakes, grammatical and spelling and all that. Number two, the idea that you're trying to communicate might be lost because of some errors here and there, and the way it is structured. So instead of writing one big sentence, you can probably make it like into short 3 sentences. It communicates the same thing, but the one who's reading, he gets the idea, she gets the idea what you're trying to say. It's easier, and that's why I mentioned short sentences. But otherwise, thank you so much for all your good comments. I hope that this has been beneficial. Any other questions? Excelling exam pods. I don't understand what you say. Uh, Sorry, I didn't understand. Yeah, so Coggle.it is for you to make mind maps. If one of you asked, how do you make mind maps? So the answer was for that. So it's a place to make mind maps. You can make your own mind maps. You don't find any resources there. Yeah. Um, sure, sure, sure. Thank you for letting me know. We will, yeah, yeah. So, yes, you can get in touch with Emmanuel, the one you got the WhatsApp message from. If you like to get in touch and and know more about this, or if you have any questions, you can just send it there. We also do mentoring sessions, and if you'd like to join that, that's also you're welcome. You'll get a message right after this, probably on Monday, regarding the future steps. So thank you so much for joining. Thank you for all your good comments, and I really hope that you do well in the upcoming exams. Thank you so much. God bless you all.